These are 10 times Brian was actually the dumbest Griffin. Starting with the time Brian put Stewie's safety at risk so he can date his daycare teacher and be careful what you fish for. So Brian picks up a paint-splattered Stewie from daycare.
Why didn't they clean you up before you left?
Brian, there's like 37 other kids in there. One was in a drawer all day.
Well, at least everyone survived, that we know of. That drawer could have just been Stewie's baby brain comprehending a coffin.
Is it normal that Miss Emily tied us all to the sink while she went out to return a birthday present?
No, that's not normal at all.
Yeah, you usually get tied to a radiator, it's just that most homes don't have those anymore. Houses change over the years, but I guess child abuse does not. So Brian decides to check out this house of horrors for himself.
Oh, what happened to that kid?
He fell off a stool trying to turn off Maury Povich.
This is awful. Where's your teacher?
Yet there's one thing about Miss Emily that'll make Brian turn a blind eye towards any crimes against humanity. She's hot.
Hi, who are you?
Brian. Brian Steele.
Though unlike his last name, his morals seem to be made of wet paper. So Brian makes a habit of dropping by Stewie's daycare, but not for any respectable reasons.
I thought you said you were going to talk to her.
I did, and she's doing her best, you know? She's got a lot on her plate.
Hopefully there's enough room on that plate for child endangerment lawsuits.
You're disgusting.
Hey, I'm sorry, but Miss Emily and I have a connection, which is totally unexpected.
I, for one, am shocked that Brian feels a connection to a pretty young woman. Totally not his usual type. But surely Brian can't just ignore Stewie getting hurt, right?
And she said I shouldn't raise my voice and pulled me really hard into the other room and my arm came out of its socket.
Nothing a Thomas the Tank Engine bandage can't fix, little guy.
I finally have a date with Miss Emily tomorrow, and I'm not gonna let you or anybody else get in my way until I have seen every inch of her naked.
Yeah, that might be hard to slide past Lois when Stewie has a single orangutan arm. But hey, Brian's probably told a woman he was a doctor once. He can surely fix that.
Get in there. Come on, hold still, Stewie.
I don't know what's worse, the fact that Brian's doing this, or the fact that Stewie probably doesn't hate it deep down.
I'm not saying I like pain, but I'm not saying I don't like it either.
But Brian finally gets his date with Miss Emily, only to learn the horrible, unforgivable truth.
I'm leaving, honey.
Okay, babe, have fun. I'm probably just gonna take a couple more showers.
Brian can excuse the blatant endangerment of children, but he draws the line at being led on. Actually, I don't even think he was being led on. Emily probably just thought she was making a new friend. The poor idiot.
What you did to these kids? There is a special place in hell for people like you.
Well, Brian will probably be going there too, so maybe they can pick this relationship up and try again when they both get there. But one relationship doomed to never work out is Brian and Quagmire, which Brian makes worse by becoming a hero in Quagmire's line of work, only to screw things up when he tries to stage a heroic moment in Dog Is My Co-Pilot. So Brian has found himself a new hobby.
For the last week, Brian's been getting into some stupid flight simulator game.
It's not stupid, and I'm fairly amazing at it.
Take it to Twitch and see how long that opinion gets held. You'll be passed up by speedrunners and challenge streamers within seconds.
And another perfect landing.
Game or not, Brian wants to use his newfound expertise to shoot the breeze with Quagmire.
Playing a game on an iPad and flying a commercial airliner are two very different things.
I don't know. Both have buttons, both use screens. As a guy who knows nothing, they sound like the same thing to me. As if being around Brian for those 30 seconds wasn't bad enough, now Brian's showing up at Quagmire's place of work.
Yeah, I took what you said the other night to heart, and I've enrolled in a flight training school in Florida called Huffman Aviation.
Sounds like a pretty prestigious school. Let me just check their history on Google and... Oh no. Oh no. But their flight experiences a little turbulence, straight out of the mouth.
Jim, are you okay?
I think he's got food poisoning. Must have been that sack lunch of leftover shrimp from his niece's wedding.
Don't know what his problem is. Shrimp is like fine wine, you gotta let it air out a bit. And I am now being informed that for legal reasons, you should not actually do that, just in case you're getting any ideas.
It's coming!
Don't worry, Quagmire, I can take over.
Sure, and while we're at it, let's let my 8-year-old nephew take over your surgery since he's played a lot of Operation. But if Quagmire's desperate enough to poop in the sink, maybe he's desperate enough to let a dog fly a plane.
Ladies and gentlemen, prepare for landing.
Famous last words. But in actuality, Quagmire's able to coach Brian into a pretty clean landing.
I don't believe it. He actually pulled it off.
And the two are honored for their bravery with keys to the city. Well, bravery is a little strong. I'd call it well-timed stupidity.
Honestly, Tom, I was just grateful to be on scene and able to help. Terrific.
And some sweet, innocent idiot gets the bright idea to pair the two of them together for a publicity campaign.
We'd like to send you both on a multi-state press tour to share your story.
Yeah, I'm sure the country's just dying to know how Quagmire's sink poop went.
Just so we get the on-screen labels correct, you're the one who landed the plane, and you're the one who pooped in the sink.
That is what it says on Quagmire's business card, after all. So the tour goes about how you'd expect, with Brian looking like a cocky hero and Quagmire getting to talk about his bowel movements a lot more than he'd probably like.
Diarrhea, diarrhea, diarrhea. I can't do the noises, but you get it.
And I am glad that you can't. But the tour comes to a halt when Quagmire decides to quit over the whole thing.
Not only am I not getting the respect I deserve, but I'm the punchline in a story where you're the hero!
AKA his worst nightmare come to life. Not only does he quit the press tour, but he also quits flying altogether, keeping up the trend of staying 100 feet away from anything Brian touches. Feeling guilty about killing Quagmire's career, Brian gets a bright idea on their last stop of the tour.
Oh my god, is he okay? Say, will you look at that?
Can Brian just kill people with his mind now? Suddenly I'm regretting making this whole video about how dumb he is.
I may have unplugged his insulin pump, but I'm guessing somebody knows how to drive this thing.
Ah, that makes more sense. What doesn't make sense is how Brian thought driving a tour boat was the same as flying an airplane.
You really Quagmire this whole thing, Brian. Oh god, now I'm doing it.
Don't worry, Quagmire, if it's not an Urban Dictionary, it's not a real term. Well, Quagmire technically manages to stop the boat. It just takes crashing into a ferry that crashes into a harbor to do it.
On the bright side, you saved all these people on the duck boat. The media will definitely recognize you as a hero now.
And hopefully they'll recognize Brian as a criminal. Sure, he sabotaged this to give Quagmire his heroic moment, but you gotta wonder if the millions in property damage and dozens of concussions were worth it. But Quagmire would score a win over him when Brian tried to prove his cat ancestry, only to end up breaking his bones in Fecal Matters. So after the whole family gets the flu, Brian decides to do a DNA test to find out about more diseases he could be susceptible to.
It says I'm predisposed to like caffeine. So true.
That's just a nice way of saying you get addicted easily, which is probably something you should look into if you're actually concerned about your health.
Oh my god, Brian! You're 1% cat!
Nice, an alcoholic and a crossbreed abomination. The world of science is really tearing you a new one. So, of course, Brian starts to really lean into this whole cat thing. He does remember it said 1% cat, right?
Guess that DNA report was right on the money. Nature over nurture.
Hey, if this is what it takes to get him to stop pooping on the front lawn, so be it.
I don't care what that report said. You're not a cat. You're what's called a pretentious absorber.
So basically, he's like a sponge if a sponge thought they looked smart because they go to ChatGPT for all their answers. So Brian begins to adopt more cat-isms, like not listening to any commands his owner says.
I demand that you jump up here and be a companion. Be a companion! Get up here!
Mommy?
And biting a petting hand, even though they were cool with it a second ago.
Ow! That's it! I'm gonna go online and buy you a $70 toy you'll hate.
That 1% is doing a lot of the heavy lifting for Brian's personality. He's one step away from sticking his butt in Lois's face and getting one of those jewels to cover it. But there's only one guy who can validate Brian's status as a cat.
Oh, hey Quagmire. What, you haven't heard? I found out I'm a cat. So, I guess you and I are cool.
But you can't fool old Quagmire. He knows cats inside and out. In and out, and in and out, and in and out. You picking up what I'm putting down?
If you're really a cat, prove it by jumping off your roof. If you land on your feet, safe and sound, I'll agree that you're a cat.
I think even if all this stuff wasn't going down, Quagmire was still going to tell Brian to jump off a roof regardless. So he gives it a try, replicating one of the greatest cat videos known to man.
Not a cat.
Sometimes you can only get a wake-up call after breaking every bone in your body. That's not the dog or cat experience, but the idiot experience. But Brian would betray his own kind by investing in a company that harvests dogs, only to almost get harvested himself in the Wolf of Wall Street. So Brian finds that Stewie has come into a lot of money. Like every mechanical horse and quahog kind of money.
I was sick of waiting my turn outside the supermarket, so I bought every coin-operated horse in town.
What's less surprising than that is that Stewie picked the unicorn to ride. Well, he's no brony, but this isn't any less weird. Luckily, Stewie's willing to share the secrets of his success.
Investing! I invest in the stock market.
The magical world of made-up numbers that mean nothing, yet can crash entire economies at a moment's notice. I guess it's so easy a baby could do it. Brian doesn't have any desire to get involved, but a little accident has him changing his tune.
What the hell?
Ay, Dios mío.
That means my car. How could you have done this to my beautiful automobile in Spanish?
Well, don't get so angry. Just tell your insurance what happened, and then they'll, oh, you're driving away because you don't have insurance.
I knew letting dogs drive would lead to trouble, but no one ever listens to the old clam. But now Brian needs money, so Stewie makes him an offer.
Tell you what, give me $100 to put in the stock market, and I'll take care of it.
Sure, Brian just needs to make one quick stop through Lois's purse, and he'll take Stewie up on his investment. And it actually works.
Here's $1,000 to fix your car. and here's 1,000 profit.
Wait, so that means carry the 2, divide by y, add a few more decimals. He turned $100 into $2,000? The stock market really is magic, and Brian wants to learn Stewie's ways.
I can see this is going to be a lot of work. So in return, you must teach me Gymkata.
The fusion of gymnastics and karate? The most dangerous and secretive fighting style known to man? The US government hasn't even used that since the siege of Acapulco. Don't know what that is? Exactly. So Brian gets into trading, and like the patron saint he is, he plans to do some good with his money.
For every dollar I make, one goes to me and one goes to charity.
I'm gonna rent a Ferrari and cruise the pier. You want in?
Sorry, kids. If you've ever been in a Ferrari, you'd understand.
Sweet, I know those guys.
But Brian's looking to make more and more, finding a new company for him and Stewie to throw some money at.
It's a great company I found to invest in. Korean. They make protein shakes. The profits are off the charts.
And do protein shake companies usually have that much pollution coming out of them? So they decided to take a look inside, and it sounds like their secret ingredient probably should have been kept secret.
I think I know why it's so cheap. They're made of dog meat.
Disgusting! I would never drink that. Unless... no, never. However... No, never. Maybe just a sip.
Brian, let's get out of here.
What do you mean? I'm taking a meeting. This company's worth a fortune.
Wow, he didn't even flinch after seeing this. You think just because you walk on 2 legs and talk like a guy who watched Frasier once that you won't be juiced up too?
Look, I'm investing in this company, and if you're too scared to do it with me, then maybe I'm working with the wrong partner.
Well, I'd like to say this is uncommon for Wall Street, but abandoning your partner out of greed is pretty par for the course. And if Brian's dumb enough to do that, then he's probably dumb enough to sniff what they call an investor's rag. Remember, kids, just because you have money does not mean you're smart. And so, Brian finds himself locked in a cage.
Stewie, it's Brian! You gotta help me, I'm gonna get eaten! Damn it!
Sorry, Brian, but dead dogs don't need phones. I'm not even sure if living dogs need them either. Luckily, Stewie hears his message and goes to save him with, you guessed it, Gymkata.
Oh no, he knows Gymkata! There is no defense! Everyone run for safety, over by those uneven bars!
Oh, you silly fool. So Stewie uses the power of obscure 80s movie fighting styles to rescue his dumb dog friend.
Stewie! Oh my god, thank you!
Just to be safe, Stewie should have broken Brian's nose with a Gymkata kick to remind him how dumb this whole plan was. But Brian would find himself with a broken leg when he tried to frame a coworker for possession and got pushed down the stairs as a result in Petey IV. So Brian's living on his own after making the nuclearly stupid decision to make a racist tweet in the previous episode. Honestly, I think we should make people leave town for bad tweets more. We as a society need to get back to banishing people again.
Is your family gonna give you money for the rent?
Yeah, I'm thinking no.
Well, you gotta do something, Brian. You're a week behind.
Well, good luck getting a job with your newfound nudist habits, my guy. Seriously, get a new collar, or at least some pants. So Brian decides to find work at a crisis hotline. Probably because he's been calling this place a lot since he got kicked out of his home.
Welcome aboard, Brian. This is your coworker, Martha.
And she's just his type. Young, blonde, has a pulse. It doesn't take too much to get him going. Remember, he's the guy who fell in love with an Alexa. But it looks like word of his new job has already made it back home.
Hey, I'm a pathetic dog whose family kicked him out, and I want to kill myself.
But that little reflection of Brian's soul won't stop him from trying to score points with Martha.
Suicide is not a 9-to-5 problem.
Turns out it might not be a problem at all if you ask him. She's not really feeling his advances, but nothing says Brian can't imagine he's with her. There really should be something that says that though. This guy is grade A street trash.
Oh, Grandpa's funeral. Baby look good in black.
I forgot, are we supposed to like this guy? There isn't a hell hot enough for a guy who does that at work.
You know what, Brian? I will... Oh my god!
Brian realizes he'll probably lose his job if Martha tells his superiors, as he should, so his landlord gives him some worldly advice. But if you don't want to get got, you gotta be the one who gots the other person.
Do what I do when people don't pay their rent. Plant drugs and call the cops.
Hey, if it's a good enough strategy for our boys in blue, it's good enough for Brian. But for some stupid reason, Martha tells Brian she actually forgives him.
I just wanted to let you know I'm not going to tell anyone about what happened, and maybe we could get that drink tomorrow.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Unrelated question, does the county jail have a bar?
Found it.
What is that?
Like you don't know.
You know, you usually aren't supposed to be present at the place where you committed a crime, but I don't think Brian got that far in criminal orientation. He was probably looking at more funeral pics.
You
My leg is broken!
So not only was Brian dumb enough to touch himself at his job, he was also too dumb to clear out before Martha got arrested. But karma works in mysterious ways. Only this time she was as mysterious as a baseball bat to the knees. But there's no surprise that taking ADHD medicine wouldn't make Brian's writing better, but he tried it anyway and had his work destroyed by George R.R. Martin in Pilling Them Softly. So Brian discovers that Lois has put Stewie on ADHD medication.
You're giving a 1-year-old drugs? You're doping up a baby.
Hey, at least it's just pills. Back in my day, when your parents wanted you to be quiet, they'd turn the knife on you. Trust me, enough moments like that'll shake you up.
Stewie?
Welcome to Pillow World, Bri.
See, this doesn't seem that bad. Who cares if he closes one eyelid at a time like a lizard?
My God, Stewie, you're totally drugged out.
Yeah, you're stepping on Brian's turf. This family only has enough room for one dopehead.
Yeah, they helped me to, think.
You know, just at a speed that makes sentences feel like 2-hour-long movies. But it turns out a lot of kids are on this medicine from what Meg has seen.
They say if you're lazy and unmotivated, it makes you super energized and productive.
Really?
Well, Brian reacted to hearing lazy and unmotivated like his name was called. Maybe he's finally found something to take him from mediocre to productive and mediocre.
Stewie, these babies can help the garbage disposal focus, because that's where they're going.
He's not lying. Dogs are kinda like living garbage disposals who'll eat up anything you don't finish. Maybe not your prescriptions, though.
God, I can't stop. The words are just pouring out of me.
Yep, vomit tends to do that. But while the pills made Stewie all relaxed and chill, they've made Brian go all obsessive Gollum mode.
Stewie, rearrange. Uets, rearrange. Weest, restore. Stewie!
There's always gotta be one lightweight guy at the party that ruins the vibe for everyone else. But Brian's used this newfound energy to design a brand new intellectual property that's sure to be a moneymaker.
It's a medieval sci-fi universe adaptable to TV, movies, toys, games, and mobile apps.
Believe it or not, this is how most good ideas start, as the ramblings of a zonked out weirdo.
It's then illegal?
What?
Hello?
Riveting basement talk going on down here, fellas. So Brian decides to pack up his insane idea and head to a book conference in Hartford to meet Game of Thrones creator George R.R. Martin. Did you know the RR stood for Red Robin?
Anyway, I'm gonna show him my models and pitch him Space Shire 7.
Please stop bugging this guy. We're never gonna get the Winds of Winter at this rate.
Mr. Martin, I'm Brian Griffin, and I've got a pitch that's gonna blow you away. Are you sitting down?
With eyes that wide and bloodshot, I'd figure he'd be able to see that he already is. The dog looks like he hasn't blinked in days.
Our story begins 50,000 fortnights ago in the distant galaxy of Warlock's Keep.
So Brian explains the entirety of his idea to Martin, only taking what probably felt like a lifetime to a guy not hopped up on ADHD medicine. So what does the world-renowned author think of it?
You just took a lot of pills, mashed together a bunch of sci-fi and fantasy cliches, and crapped out a 2,000-page turd.
Come on, George, no need to sugarcoat it for him. Tell him how you really feel.
That stuff doesn't make you write well, it just makes you write a lot.
So this sobering realization finally convinces Brian he needs to sober up.
Stewie, this drug is ruining us. We don't need these.
You're right.
Yeah, and maybe if you cut out the day drinking and the excessive pot smoking, you might actually be able to write something halfway decent. Yeah, I know that's asking too much. But when Brian tried to return to his former owner, who was a successful writer, it became easier to see just how dumb Brian actually is and who's Brian now. So Brian's doing his usual late night ritual of getting hammered in the woods and passes out before later waking up in a kennel.
Good morning, buddy.
It's morning?
You can talk?
Honestly, yeah, that should be most people's responses to seeing Brian, not, maybe I should sleep with this guy. Luckily, they scan his tracking chip and find out who he belongs to.
So you can go back to your owners, the Hendersons of Bristol County.
Well, that doesn't seem right. That family doesn't look like they have a drop of rampant alcoholism or self-hatred in them at all.
Who are these people? My family is the Griffins.
So it turns out Brian was originally owned by another family who reported him missing right before Peter found him. As if Brian's lore and backstory already didn't make a lot of sense.
I just think it's important I understand who these people were, as an anthropologist might.
Not sure how being a super fancy retail store is going to help your search, but you do you, Brian.
I just thought it might be helpful to reconnect with them. It's funny, but I have no memory of living with them.
So Brian does just that, finding a big, spiffy house waiting for him.
Oh my god, it's you! Is this really happening?
Sure is.
I guess he wasn't around long enough to get to the naming stage, so he's just you for now. Also, this guy must have a super good memory to be able to recognize a dog from 10 years ago that he only had for a few days.
We thought we'd never see you again. We made a grave for you and everything. Want to see it?
Want to see your own grave?
As neat as that sounds, Brian just wants to learn more about his first family. Apparently his owner is quite the writer. An actual one who reads, unlike Brian.
1984, chilling. Could happen, right?
Which part?
Oh, just all of it.
Well, he's technically right. We did have 1984 almost 50 years ago, so I guess your 3rd grade reading level gets you by for now.
The Hendersons were actually amazing. I can totally see where I get my literary chops from.
Judging by how little he knows, I wouldn't be surprised if the only time he touched a book was when they threw it at him for peeing on the carpet.
I was just thinking, how different my life could be if I'd actually grown up with the right kind of family.
Yeah, I'm sure it would have just been filled with Mr. Peanut cosplays. But this little taste of the good life has quickly made Brian resentful of his current home.
How are you all actually this dumb? I can't even believe I've wasted my intellect living here.
I don't think he's noticed that he only looks smart because he's living here. Any dog would look like a rocket scientist when you line him up next to Peter. So Brian goes to live with the Hendersons, only to immediately find that they do things differently.
We've never had an unwiped dog anus on a chair cushion before, and we're not about to change that now.
What a controversial take. I thought most families liked having a dirty ring on all their kitchen chairs. The Hendersons are also open to changing Brian's name to something more sophisticated like Ishmael.
Call me Ishmael?
Ha! See, honey? I told you he wasn't secretly a stupid alcoholic fraud.
That's funny, I didn't think it was much of a secret. But it doesn't take long for Brian to realize his separation from the Hendersons was more of a blessing than a curse.
How come when I went missing, you guys didn't keep looking for me?
Well, we really like to leave things up to God's will.
Yeah, that was probably all that Brian needed to hear. Luckily, Peter's here to roadhouse the crap out of him.
I never saw Roadhouse.
It's about kicking!
And somehow this random act of violence makes Brian remember what he loves about the Griffins in the first place.
The Hendersons treated me like a pet. But you guys treat me like family.
Well, just call him Olive Garden, I guess. So Brian returns home with a new appreciation for his family.
I would much rather be the smartest guy in a dumb family than the dumbest guy in a smart family.
Bold to say that when you're sitting next to a kid who invented a literal time machine. After that, I'd say you're like the 4th, maybe 3rd smartest person here. But Brian ended up looking like the dumbest person in an entire country when he traveled all the way to India to meet a crush, only to fail to win her over en route to India. So Brian immediately falls for a tech support woman named Padma after hearing her voice. These are levels of down bad never before seen by man.
Amazing. 1 second of a stranger's voice on a phone and you've got full Bollywood.
Luckily for him, they're across the globe from one another, which means she's the perfect target for Brian's obvious lies.
So what seems to be the problem?
Well, one problem I have is that I have too much money.
What he doesn't tell her is that all his money's in Robux. Hey, it's gonna surpass the US dollar one day.
Oh, you are a writer? Are you famous?
By choice, no.
Yeah, by the choice of everyone with a working pair of eyes and/or ears. So the two continue to talk and flirt, with Brian even making up excuses just to speak with her.
My computer wasn't actually broken this time. I just wanted to talk to you again.
I like talking to you too, Brian.
She might like him so much that she'll want to learn more about him. The street he grew up on, his mother's maiden name, those funny little numbers on the back of his credit card.
I know it's crazy, but I honestly feel a connection to this woman. More than I have to anyone in a long time.
Yeah, but a long time could honestly just be like a week. Dog time is weird.
It's so nice to talk to you, Brian. You make me feel wonderful.
Well, that's enough of a sign for Brian to upend his entire life.
Stewie, I'm going to India.
Yeah, what's another global trip to put on Peter's bank account? So Brian and Stewie arrive in India and actually manage to find the call center that Padma works at, but finding her is a different story.
How can I help you?
I'll tell you how. Stand on your desk.
Brian?
Padma, just do it.
And true love await. Oh.
Are you Padma?
No, I am Ranita. There is a python in my cube.
Oh, false alarm. There she is.
I am touched you came all this way to see me.
I'm so glad I did. You're even more beautiful than I imagined.
Yeah, for a second there, it almost seemed like this $8,000 plane ticket for a woman you never met was a bad move. So Padma invites the two over for a family party. But it's not just any party, it's an engagement party.
So who's getting married?
I am.
What?
Yeah, an arranged marriage is probably something that should have come up in their talks. Now Brian looks like a D-bag for not showing up with a gift. But Padma is willing to throw that all away.
His name is Brian Griffin, and my heart belongs to him.
Which means Padma's father is now out of a lot of money. But surely successful writer Brian Griffin can smooth that out.
He's holding on to an Applebee's gift card with $1.62 on it.
I do not know Applebee's.
Well, my hope is that one day the beautiful country of India will be able to experience the joy of the extremely mid-bar food. Well, Brian's gonna have to raise the money somehow. But with no discernible skills, Brian draws inspiration from probably the only Indian movie he's seen.
Who
wants to be a millionaire.
I know it should seem obvious, but someone probably should have told Brian you actually need to know things to win that show.
D. Jiminy Cricket. Final answer.
Well, he lost the game, but he did speedrun how fast he can embarrass himself to a global audience. That's worth something. Just not money.
My father has solved the problem by promising Dheeraj the hand of my younger sister.
Oh, well, that solves that issue. But now there's a new issue. Padma now knows that Brian's not the one for her.
I am deeply touched that you came all this way to find me. But the truth is, you and I have very little in common.
Again, this probably could have been something that was figured out before an $8,000 plane ticket was spent. But hey, at least Brian got quite the experience out of it.
You know what? It's about the journey, not the destination.
No, it's not. This sucked and you failed.
And Brian would once again fail in a legal battle against Stewie, where he is eventually legally declared an idiot in Movin' In Principal Shepherd's song. So while visiting a pet store, Brian is actually noticed as someone from the literary world.
It's really you. We recognize you from your book.
Ah, you've read Faster Than the Speed of Love.
Yes, the book that performed so badly that it set a world record for the least amount of copies sold. The only way she could have read that is if she was in a government prison and they used it for torture.
I'm talking about this one.
Flunky the Dumb White Dog? By Griffin Stewart?
Well, the resemblance is uncanny. White fur, red color, and a glazed look in the eyes. Whoever this Griffin Stewart guy is must be stalking Brian or something.
My catchphrase is herf derf?
Now that's a catchphrase. Let's be honest, Brian, you've been needing a new one of those for a minute. When's the last time you even asked somebody whose leg you need to assault to get a drink? So Brian goes to question Stewie on whether he knows who this Griffin Stewart fella might be. Just kidding, he's not that dumb. I think.
You wrote a whole children's book series about me, and you made me look like a total idiot.
Come on, that could be any dumb white dog. You seeing yourself in the character speaks more to your own view of yourself than you think, Brian.
All I'm doing is presenting you honestly to the public.
Yeah, and Brian already does that to himself on Twitter. Then again, I wouldn't exactly call his 5 followers the public. But Stewie isn't stopping as people line up around the block to have their book signed by a 1-year-old.
Okay, who do I make this out to?
Actually, could you use a Sharpie?
No, my mom says I can't use Sharpies. They're permanent.
So Brian decides to handle this the way we do it in the modern day, by suing the crap out of him.
That's right, I lawyered up, you little bitch.
Spoken like a dog who's definitely not an idiot. He's got this case in the bag. But how can Stewie come out on top? Well, by proving that his work is factual rather than fictional.
Brian Griffin is, in fact, an idiot, and therefore cannot be defamed.
Now I desperately need to see this same court case in real life. Some people are so stupid that they just need to be sued for it. So Stewie lines up opportunities to show that Brian is just a dumb dog.
On December 1st, 1951, Treat Williams was born.
Where's the treat?
Thank you.
Luckily, any dog can be turned into a drooling idiot with just a few words, like he's the Winter Soldier.
I will now read the entry for Christopher Walken.
Walk? Go for a walk?
Yeah, that seems like enough evidence. Enough that the jury reaches its decision.
The dog is an idiot. The baby wins.
Derf, derf.
See, I knew Brian had said that at least once.
I mean, I can't believe you do this to me. I'll never forgive you.
Dang, that's crazy. Unfortunately, a dog's memory is about as short as one trip through a door.
Hey, you're back! Oh man, I feel like you've been gone forever!
You see, Brian, it's actually quite simple. You want people to stop seeing you as an idiot? Stop acting like one. But Brian just couldn't stop being dumb to the point where he eventually developed a tumor that affected his own intelligence in Our Idiot Brian. So Meg is getting stressed out about the SATs, but luckily she has a scholar like Brian to encourage her.
Are the SATs essential, vital, crucial? D, all of the above.
If you forget the fact that Meg probably saw him crap on the front lawn an hour ago, that might have sounded clever.
Maybe you should get someone super smart to take it for you.
Have someone take it for me? But that's cheating.
Oh, Meg, cheating is all a part of the school experience. You think I got to where I am today by playing it straight and narrow? I've lied, cheated, stolen, and killed. Okay, that's a bit dramatic. I've never stolen anything.
What about your hot mom, Meg?
What?
I said, how about your dog? He's smart.
Well, he definitely has the brain of a high schooler, but one of the ones that skips lunch to hotbox in the parking lot. Ruth, we'll talk about that mom comment later. So Meg tries to convince Brian to do it with some good old-fashioned flattery.
You're so smart. I thought you'd be the perfect person to maybe take the SAT for me.
Sure, cheating is bad, but you compliment Brian's intelligence and he'll do anything for you. Yes, even that weird thing you're thinking of, you freak.
Hey, other teens. How about our youth culture, am I right?
Wrong. Everything you've ever said is wrong. So how did the family genius do?
We scored 1,000.
Nice! 1,000 on the nose. Boop.
Yeah, out of a possible 2,400, mind you.
That's the worst score in my class.
What?
Damn it! Why did I ever think you were smart?
To be fair, early season Brian was a very different beast compared to whatever this guy is.
This proves that you're stupid. Proves it empirically. That means it's verified.
I know!
But maybe being dumb isn't the worst thing in the world. It's worked out pretty well for Peter.
You don't gotta worry about nothing, you don't gotta read books, and you never die.
Incredible stuff coming out of that fart cloud he calls a brain. But Peter's gonna show him the magical world of knowing nothing.
Hey, you want a beer?
Peter, it's 11 a.m.
If the clock ain't digital, you don't know that.
It's only a matter of time until we all forget how to read those anyway. Say goodbye to analog clocks, handwriting, and knowing what books are. So Peter gets Brian to fully embrace his dumb guy identity, but Stewie starts to have some concerns.
Brian, I'm concerned something is very wrong with you.
No, man, I've never felt better, Beef Stew.
But maybe being an idiot isn't the worst thing for him. I mean, it finally convinced him to put on clothes.
Ah, gross, he's getting his nose period.
But apparently being too dumb is actually bad for your health.
I'm sorry to inform you that Brian has a brain tumor.
And now he's got to gut out for the rest of his life. Sorry, I missed your funeral, bro. The old brain tumor was acting up again. He's saying this to the guy in the casket, just to clarify.
We can schedule surgery to remove it, and he'll be back to his old self in no time.
But Brian doesn't want to give up his lack of intelligence. Ignorance is bliss, they say. He doesn't know who said it, but he knows someone at some point said it. But that isn't going to stop Stewie.
This is the opera. I'm hoping that re-exposing you to high culture will remind you of the joys of a refined mind.
But attempt after attempt convinces Stewie that it might be over for Brian. So long as he's happy, Stewie's happy.
What are you doing?
Oh, my friend Terry told me you can get high from licking paint.
On second thought, you might want to stick a clothes hanger in his ear while he's asleep.
Hey, Brian, you want to go see Dr. Hartman and get that procedure where you get 2 wieners?
Whoa, hell yeah!
Luckily, that's all it takes to get Brian into the hospital to have surgery against his will. Isn't the medical industry great?
You unilaterally decided I was better off a bitter alcoholic failure who can only hang out with a baby.
Dang straight, because we wouldn't have you any other way. Enjoy suffering through life like the rest of us, idiot. But you can make life a little easier by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. That way you can help us grow and stay up to date on all the new Family Guy videos we put out every week.